full slate of releases this week, but we have a very small house, and I'm glad because it gives me a chance to really talk to Sherry Ewing in depth. So thank you, Sherry, for taking the time to be with us this week.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to really quickly name the releases that we've got, and then we'll have the other authors on in different times to talk about the books. But I'll also make sure to put the links in the comments if you haven't gotten them already, so you can grab them. But the first release this week was Emily Murdoch's A Fighting Chance, which is book 1 in the Chances, and that's a brand new series for Emily, and she's going to be here next week to talk to us about that one. And then the next release is Rogue You Like a Hurricane. Love the title for that one. That's Brenna Ash's book. And Rogue You Like a Hurricane is book 2 in the Rogues and Redemption series. And we'll catch up with Brenna as soon as we get a chance to do that. And then book 3 is her Irresistible Charmer, which is Marie Higgins, the 4th book in her Worthington Legacy series. And that's a Sweet Dreams book. So I'll catch up with Marie when we can. And then the last book that released this week is Mary Wine's book, and it's The Laird of Misrule. And this is a brand new series too. It's book 1 in the Enchanted Well. It's kind of not exactly paranormal, but it's got some bits that are kind of interesting attached to that. So full slate of releases, and I'll make sure I put everything in the comments so you can find it. But Sherry's book actually released last week, and it made her our Dragonblade author of the month. So he's the Lion and His Promise. It's the Lion's Den book. So Sherry, can you tell us about that one?
Yes, actually, this is the second book in the Lion's Den Connected world that I've written, and I am absolutely loving this world. I could write for the rest of my life in this world. I keep creating all these secondary characters that are eventually going to have to have their happily ever after, but I love writing in this connected world. And The Lion and His Promise is a best friend sibling kind of a book with like a second chance at love. And so my hero, Giles Holly, had a best friend and who had a younger sister, and he had feelings for her. But as young gentleman, he made his best friend a promise that he would not woo his sister, and so that prevented him from offering for Josephine. And with that regret that haunted him for most of his adult life, Josephine made some very, very bad decisions. She ended up running away with a man who only wanted her for her money. She became a widow, and things just continued to go south. She I know, and she's actually part of years ago. I should back up maybe just a little bit, because years ago when I write for the Blue Stocking Bells, we have anthologies, and I had widows that were mistresses of some of the men that were the main characters in my novellas for the Bells, and they all became known as a part of the Wicked Widows Club. And so I've been writing about them for probably like 5 or 6 years, just little tidbits in a Tea Time Tattler blog post that the Bells have. And so I decided that they needed to be redeemed. These, even though they had a bad life, they were redeemable. So when I got asked to write in the Lion's Den world, I jumped at the chance, because I felt that this was the perfect opportunity to have these 4 friends meet 4 new brand male characters. And it's just all meshing and working out wonderfully.
Awesome.
I love it.
So was your first Lion's Den book also one of the widows?
It was, and that was To Claim a Lion's Heart. And I just turned in Only a Lion Will Do to my editor just a few weeks ago. So I've got the last girl on deck to write her story next. So I'm on a roll.
Oh,
and I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Fantastic. It must be interesting to write widows rather than, I think it was Kathleen Ayers who said a couple of weeks ago that deflowering virgins on the daily is exhausting.
It is exhausting. Trying to get into the head of a 16, 18-year-old is sometimes really, really challenging. So it's kind of nice to have an older heroine who's kind of been around around a little bit, so she's not
She has more agency.
She has, yes, she does. And so these women are actually trying to get back into society with the help of the oldest of the friends. So she's actually been paying the matchmaking fee with Mrs. Lyon. So to get all her friends, so that they're all married to titled gentlemen and they are all back together again where they should have belonged in the first place. So I'm having a blast writing. I can't get it fast enough onto the laptop.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it when books come like that, when
Yeah.
when you feel like you just have to like try and stay out of their way.
I know. And trying to go back and edit my medievals to get back to my editor is really hard when your brain is stuck in the Regency era, and now I've got to go back and go to 12th century England for my other Dragonblade books. So
what is the Night of Darkness and the Night of Chaos?
yeah, those are the two, and I've got the other two books in the series going back to my editor within the next week. So yeah.
So which do you prefer writing? Do you prefer Regency or do you prefer medieval?
You know, I actually have learned to like both. I'm starting to get more Regencies than I am getting medievals or my time travels. Time travels come onto my laptop really, really fast. I definitely was born on the wrong side of the pond or something, because those I can easily write a time travel, no problem. But you know, if I'm doing a straight medieval, I'm trying to get more history. So the Knights of the Anarchy, they have a lot more history than I was originally writing in my self-published books. So, and then the problem with Regencies is you really got to get all those titles right. If you get it wrong, it's
there are a lot of rules.
There's a lot of rules, and I'm always checking with the bells, and I'm like, is this right? I know I'm writing this wrong, and you know, how is she going to be addressed? And so there's all those little tiny details that you just got to get just right. But I just love writing. I kind of started my writing career late, so I'm playing catch up, I think.
Well, there's nothing wrong with starting late. I don't think. Do you find yourself do you get the plot first, or do you get the characters first, or how do you get your stories?
I usually get the characters first. If I'm writing some of my time travel series, they're already like very well established. There's already a base, because they interconnect with my other medievals, and I'm tying them all together. So there's already a base, there's a main castle, and they just kind of branch out and go. So I just love writing. I wish I could quit my day job so that I could just write all the time, but unfortunately I live in the Bay Area, so that's not happening quite yet.
Yeah. Do you plot your books out completely, or do you just kind of go along?
No, I am a complete pantser. I might have an idea of where I'm going, but just when I think that's where that story should go, my characters will usually tell me in the middle of the night that I've got it all wrong, and then I got to go write it down, because I won't remember at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I hate that. It used to be that you could hold those things in your head, and now it's like you just like, no fighting.
I got to go get a pen, because I've tried recording it, and then I sound like a drunken sailor. It doesn't work. So I got to go get a pen and write it down.
Well, you mentioned having a day job, and I thought one of the things that we've been talking about with some of the authors, some of the Dragonblade authors, is what they did previously, like what you went to school for, and you know, first jobs, or jobs that you liked or jobs that you didn't like, because I think that authors are such learners. I think we all have a tendency to, like, you know, dip our toes in lots of places before we settle down to something. So I wondered if you wanted to share a little bit about that with us.
Well, sure. So basically, when I was in high school, because I've got to go back even a little bit further, I wanted to be an author. I was going to go to college. I was going to take classes. Who wouldn't want to be a published author with, you know, a big advance and all that? And I wrote an essay, and my teacher told me that my writing would never amount to anything, and I was devastated.
Why would a teacher say
I know that teacher became a faceless, nameless. I just see her blonde hair, and that's all I see.
She's the villain in every story from here on out.
Yeah. So I was so devastated. I never went to college. I got a job as a secretary right out of high school. I met my first husband. We got married, had 2 kids. He passed away. I remarried, had another child. He took me He took me to Baker, Nevada, which I love the area. But it's very, very rural. I mean, we're
Mhm.
talking middle of nowhere, Nevada, on Highway 50, the loneliest highway in America. And so we were working for the Park Service there, and I got a job first as a maintenance clerk, and then got a permanent job as a secretary. And over the 10 years that I was there, we got divorced, and my titles changed as collateral duties as assigned happened. And during my divorce, I had a friend of mine who I was telling, because I was so angry,
Mhm.
that I said, I should write that book that I always wanted to write. And I would have a mistress and I would kill her off. Because I was angry.
Yeah.
Um, and
And that's
so,
a reasonably healthy way to deal with that kind of
you know
anger.
what? It was the best therapy I could ever have. It was the best therapy I could ever have. And he basically said, well, what's stopping you? And that's what started it all. I don't know that if I hadn't had that encouragement from him, if I would have ever picked up a laptop and started writing,
Oh,
because I was just so focused on trying to get out of there and find
yeah.
another job in the city or come back here to the Bay Area where my mom lives, or just I was looking for anything. So I started working as an IT specialist, although I started doing IT work, but they would never put me into that field. So I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And so now I've spent the last 15 years at Golden Gate National Recreation Area here in San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just a straight IT specialist. I don't have to do any other any other jobs like I used to do at the other park. And I'm here for a reason, because my mom lives here. So
Mhm.
yeah, and 27, The Lion and His Promise was my 27th book.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
that's not too bad considering I first self-published in 2014. So,
Mhm.
and a day job, holding down a day job is exhausting.
Yes.
So, yeah,
So, how do you
yeah.
find time to write? Do you write in the mornings? Do you write in the evenings or on the weekends? How do you
I
manage that?
usually I don't have time during
Mhm.
during the morning. I've got a commute, so there. I wish I could say that I could, because when I am home that would be the best time for
That's
me
your
to
best
write.
time?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I'm fresh. I don't talk to anybody. I just sit down and I get my words in, and I can start my day, especially on the weekend. So I usually do the day job, come home, pick up a computer again, and try and get my word count in
Mhm.
for the day. So.
Do you have a goal, or do you change your word count goal based on the
My
deadlines?
my goal is try to get at least 1,800 words in.
Mhm.
That could take me several hours. It just depends on the story that I'm writing. If I've got research going on, then I've got to, I'm procrastinating and looking things up instead of just getting it on the page. So it really depends on the story that I'm writing. And sometimes I'm on such a roll that next thing I look up and I've got 3,000 words on it. For me, that's great. I mean, that for me, that's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words for anybody,
Yeah, that's a
especially
lot
at
of words.
the end of the
How
day.
I went to a with my local writers group several years ago, and we had a little retreat, and I wish they would do them more often, because sitting in a room, not necessarily talking to people, but just being in a room of writers who are just focused on being writing, I was like getting 5 to 6,000 words on a page the whole weekend, and that was the best writing that I ever did. As a matter of fact, I started writing Night of Darkness
Oh, cool.
at that retreat.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I just spent 3 days and I've got over 15,000 words in this book already.
Oh, that's
It's
fantastic.
amazing.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you pull ideas from real life? I know you said about the anger management thing, which makes perfect sense. Like I can absolutely understand how you ended up in that direction. But do you pull characters from real life? Do you pull situations from real life and
Oh, if they only knew. I definitely have a lot of my life in some of those earlier books. Now, not so much, but some of those early books really took some situations, and then I twisted them around a little bit. But it was a lot um, of my life in those books. So I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe I need to get a boyfriend again so that I can dump him or something. So I have that angst again.
I don't know.
Not, although I don't know where I'd have time to have a man in my life. Now I got too much going on.
You know, they can be a lot of work.
They are a lot. They are a lot of work. I don't know if it would be worth it.
I mean, they're lovely under certain circumstances.
Absolutely. And every once in a while, I would like to, have it come home and get a hug. That I kind of miss some of those little things. But yeah, they are a lot of work.
So you said you live in the Bay Area. Is there anything in particular that you love about that, aside from moving closer for family?
Well, I lived here before I moved to Baker, Nevada for the first Park Service job. So this has really kind of been my home for more of a lifetime than I ever lived growing up in Michigan. So I just like the area. It's generally not too hot, not too cold. Of course, it's San Francisco, so it does get colder in the summers. Right now, we're in a massive heat wave. So 90 degrees outside is like 120 in a second floor apartment with no air conditioning. So it's pretty miserable the last couple of days.
Yeah, can imagine.
But I'm mainly here for my mother, though. I mean, she's getting a little older, and I would never want to say that she's slowing down, but she is starting to slow down a little bit.
Well, I think we all get to a point where it's harder to hold a bunch of things in our head at the same time, and
oh, absolutely,
that seems reasonable. So
yep.
So you have one more Lion's Den book planned, and how many more of the medievals?
I have 2 more.
Oh, 2 more.
I have 2. I have 2 more.
Oh, fantastic!
Yes, I have 2 more, and then and I think that well, I don't know when the other one. I can't look into 2025 yet. My brain can't go that far in advance. But so I have 2
Publishers Marketplace announcements out to 2026 now. So it's like
yeah. So I have those 2 Lyon Den books, and then I have the 2 other medievals in the Knights of the Anarchy series, and then I also have another one that I'll be for Dragonblade that's going to go into one of the anthologies. So I still have some writing to do. I don't have any of my other self-published books in the works, unfortunately. It's all Dragonblade right now. So
it's unfortunate for you. It's fortunate for us. We're very happy with that situation.
Yeah. And I think I might pitch a time travel series maybe at some point, but I think I've learned my lesson that I have just got to have them all written. So that might take a little while, because with the day job, it's just very extreme for me. And life keeps hitting me with one thing and after another, and I don't like missing deadlines.
Well, and I think that there's an extra pressure too.
Oh, absolutely.
And you realize that you're trying to create and you're behind.
Right.
Like thinking about that feels good.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I actually had in the Knights of the Anarchy, I had 2 books done. So I thought, 2 books, I can get those done, no problem. Yeah, that was my first mistake. I should have at least had the 3rd book done and then pitched it, but that's okay. It's all coming about. It's all going to be there.
We'll get there. So what did you start with the Mistress? Was that a contemporary? Or was that
no, it was actually a Regency era. And it was a complete train wreck because I didn't know the first thing about craft. First
books are first, second, sometimes third books.
Yeah, it wasn't the first book I ever published. As a matter of fact, it was years before I finally published that one, and ended up writing like a book before that one, a little bit shorter than that full-length novel. That book was almost a complete rewrite. I had so many points of view all over the place that everybody was having a conversation and inside their own head, but it worked out really well in the end, and it turned out to be a nice little story.
Well, and I think that that's something that people don't realize, how much you have to write before your writing is ready to see the world, before it's ready for somebody to read it, because it's a craft just like anything else.
Yeah.
You have to practice it to get to a point where you can be a good storyteller.
Well, years ago, I joined Romance Writers of America, which got me to my local chapter. And my local chapter here, I don't belong anymore, but my local chapter here, I have never met a more helpful group in my entire life. I mean,
Lovely.
they taught me so much. I don't know that I would be here without them. They taught me so much, and they were more than willing to give any bit of information, any bit of help that you needed. They were well, and they still are. They are still fabulous. We just don't meet in person anymore since COVID, which is kind of too bad, because that's another thing that it's okay to meet on Zoom all the every month, but it's not really
It's
the
nice
same.
to be able to sit next to somebody.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's nice to
So
have that connection.
so
Yeah. I think that that's one of the things that's true about the romance community in general, which I really love. From the beginning when I first started writing, other authors are just so generous.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
because romance readers read so voraciously. There's no scrabbling over readers. It's like,
Hmm. Yep. And then
so
I hooked up with the Blue Stocking Bells, another online group, and in 2015, and they mostly all wrote Regency, so I was really in a good place there, because we've got a few people there that they know everything. They know all the forms of address. I don't know that I would be
it's so
writing Regency.
helpful.
I'm telling you, I don't know that I would be writing Regency without them, because it was very confusing. Very, very confusing.
Imagine, like, even just a little bit of Downton Abbey watching I've done, like trying to figure
Right,
out who's titled how, and it's like
right,
it's
right.
lovely to have somebody who actually knows.
Sure, sure.
Other-
And the whole Dragonblade team, everybody there is fabulous. I mean, if I got questions, if I'm late, if my editor Elizabeth Mazer, she is phenomenal. I pray to God that woman never leaves me, because she really makes me dig deep into my characters, and
I love
she
that.
is wonderful.
Yeah, I love that with
Wonderful.
an editor who does that. The worst thing in the world is to have an editor who likes you too much. You know, because you have to have somebody who's going to push you.
Yeah,
Who's
she the first time she gave me when I got the book, I was like, "Oh my god, what did I just get myself into?" But it was all great, great
hmm
suggestions.
yeah,
I don't have to change anything, but they
yeah.
were all great suggestions, and she really makes me dig deep into getting, better characters, better, or sees things in my plots that I'm like, "Oh, didn't notice that. Didn't
Yeah.
think of that." So she really makes me think. So
And there's
she's
something like really fantastic about having your ideas made stronger because somebody
right.
pushes you a little bit. It's like
Yes.
it's
Yep.
a good
Yep.
feeling.
Instead of, "Oh, that's good. Okay, but
Mhm.
what can I do to make it better?" So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because like we're asking people. Dragonblade books are fantastic deals. Like they just pre-order. You can get it for less than $1 if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. You can read it as part of your subscription. Like Dragonblade books are a really great deal, but we're asking people to give us their time
Sure.
too. And when you do that, you want to make sure that if they're going to go on the ride with you, you want to make sure you take them on
Right.
the very best ride you possibly can. So
Absolutely. Well, the covers, my gosh, the covers are all just so stunning. I mean, every single one that I see comes out, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that is just beautiful. I want to buy them all just for the covers." I mean, they're fabulous.
yeah, that's the one of my favorite things is getting to see, when the new series come out, what the cover directions are for them. So
Yeah,
it's
great stuff.
great. Well, Sherry, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your history. It's like I always think it's interesting to get to know the authors that we love to read. So I
Well, I
really
appreciate you interviewing me and getting my name out there and all that good stuff.
it's a pleasure, and congratulations, author of the month.
Thank
Um,
you. I'm so excited.
If you want to see all of Sherry's Dragonblade books, you can head on over to the webpage because part of being author of the month means that you're the featured author for the following month. So Sherry's the featured author for July. So her books are all on the homepage. So you can find them there and the links. And I'll make sure that I put the links to everyone's book in the chat. I say the same thing I say every week because it's true every week. Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release. Get them right away. Don't wait. But if you do wait, you can read in Kindle Unlimited. So we'll make it easy for you to find the books.